Greetings. I'm Zachary Hepner. I'm pleased to share the Svar Torah for Parashat Noah. In 1960, Atticus Finch's legal defense of Tom Robinson in racist Alabama had the effect of inspiring a generation of lawyers who entered law with the intentions of supporting civil rights. Atticus was called a paragon of honor by a law professor at University of Notre Dame. The federal judge who presided over Timothy McVeigh for his participating in the Oklahoma bombing counted Atticus as a major influence in his career. There is even a monument dedicated to Atticus in Monroeville, Alabama, with the inscription, "First commemorative milestone in the state's judicial history." There is one small problem. Atticus never existed. He is the greatest role model who never was. Lo haya, lo nivra. Atticus is the literary invention of Harper Lee in her monumental work To Kill a Mockingbird, which had become an instant classic and required reading in some circles. Lee never dictated to us what to think of her protagonist. It was society who chose how to view Atticus. Lee was simply writing a story, or as it turns out, a series of short stories. In 2015, a year before Harper Lee died, she released another book called Go Set a Watchman. This book contained more nascent stories that had been written earlier in her career than her original To Kill a Mockingbird, with the same Atticus, but far less progressive, and his views on race and public policy were more typical of a middle-class white man who lived in Alabama in the 1950s. This revelation became an instant controversy and an almost existential crisis to those who had spent over 50 years idolizing their fictitious hero. Let me bring the Atticus controversy to light to discuss ethical relativism, which is an annual conversation for Parashat Noah. In the first verse of Parashat Noah, Noah is described as Ish tzaddik tamim haya b'doratav. He was righteous in his generation, which sounds like a backhanded compliment. Was he righteous but only in his generation? Rashi famously cites the rabbinic dispute that takes both views. Rabbi Yochanan in Sanhedrin 108 says, B'dorotav v'lo b'dorot acherim. He was righteous in his generation, but not in other generations. V'reish Lakish amar b'dorotav kol sheken b'dorot acherim. Reish Lakish takes the opposite view. A perfume in a smelly room that is moved to a clean room smells all the better. Noah would have been even greater had he lived in a more righteous generation. Personally, I don't know how Noah would have fared in the generation of Abraham, or for that matter, in our times. But just because he was a man of his times does not detract from his accomplishments. In this case, being the object of grace, chen, in God's eyes, that allowed humanity a second chance, is quite the accomplishment. Noah's fallen grace, when he gets drunk later in the Parsha, does leave him, no pun intended, exposed to criticism, but it also exposed him with human fallibility. Tanakh is full of role models whose flaws were plentiful. Even King David is our quintessential flawed role model. I'm inspired that Reish Lakish, who was a highway bandit before becoming a great sage, felt moved enough that he would feel comfortable betting on Noah had Noah lived in a more righteous generation. We don't need perfect heroes. As long as we try the best, and they try their best, we are fulfilling Rabbi Tarfon's Lo alecha hamalacha ligmor, v'lo ata ven chorin lihibatel mimena. It is not your duty to finish the work, but neither are you at liberty to neglect it. The one thing all heroes and role models have in common, they try their hardest. Wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom.